Hi, this is Charlie from Ask Dad Why. I have a good friend who purchased a gold shell mini-doge miner, and he loaned it to me so I could make this review video. I'll talk about some of the setup details, a break-even analysis that you can download and try for yourself, and last, I will share some things I learned about taxes that everybody involved with crypto needs to know. Some weeks back, I unboxed a gold shell LB1 miner, which was mining library credits, and you can check out that video on YouTube or Odyssey TV. Also, I live stream on Mondays and Thursdays at 8 p.m. on Reddit. Before I say another word, you need to know that this video and my channel are for tech and financial education, and I hope you find it helpful. However, I'm not a financial advisor, I'm not an accountant, and I'm not an attorney. My hope is this video will offer you the courage to do your own research, to come to your own conclusions. I cannot offer financial advice. All I can do is express my own opinion and share my best understanding with you. I don't think the setup process could be any easier than it is for the gold shell mini-doge miner. That said, I think it would be helpful to explain how the pieces fit together because that's not obvious to everybody, and this product is designed so you can be successful with very little technical background. The mini-doge miner is designed to mine both Doge and Litecoin at the same time. However, you need to connect it with a mine pool that supports what's called merge mining. F2 Pool is one such mine pool, and this is exactly what I have done with this test successfully. At the current exchange rates to US dollars, about 2/3 of the mining rewards are Doge, but of course that could vary depending upon how each coin holds up in the market. It is a true appliance. That means it's purpose-built hardware. It uses an application-specific integrated chip, or an ASIC, running its own very specialized software that only does one thing. You plug it into the wall, you plug in an Ethernet cable into your Ethernet switch, and then you access a web interface on the miner from a browser window on Windows, Mac, or a Chromebook. The miner uses wired Ethernet. So in theory, you could connect the miner's Ethernet port to a wireless bridge, but my strong recommendation is to connect it using a wired Ethernet connection to your Ethernet switch. So if necessary, buy a longer Ethernet cable, but I wouldn't recommend using it with wireless. The only other physical concern is the power cable. If you buy the 300-watt power supply from Gold Shell, you will need a standard computer power cord with the correct prongs for your country. If you have purchased a computer at any point in the last 20 years, you probably have one around the house, or you can buy one for less than 10 bucks at Best Buy or Amazon. Very easy. There's no software to install, zero, on your computer. There's no USB connection, and there's no additional software to install on the miner itself. It's already there. The firmware is installed. It was ridiculously easy to get this thing working. My compliments to the engineering team at Gold Shell. The miner will pull a DHCP lease from the router on your network. If you have a Verizon Fios or cable company router, that device hands out IP addresses from what's called a DHCP pool. The miner will grab an address from your router. Then you need to figure out that IP address. I did this by accessing a list of devices on my network, which are visible in my Verizon's router management interface. If you don't have access to your router, then try Gold Shell's ridiculously easy-to-use discovery tool, which also works in a browser on Windows, Mac, or Chromebook. And if neither of those options work, then you're going to need a program that can discover nodes on your local network and provide you with a listing of their IP addresses along with host names if it's able to glean them. From there, you can figure out which device is the mini-doge, and once you have that, just pop open a browser window and go to http:// that IP address. From Windows, the discovery tool, if you need one, is called Advanced IP Scanner. For Mac OS, you can try something called Angry IP Scanner. I have not used it, but I can see what it does. It's the right thing. And for Chromebook, go to the Google Play Store. There's a mobile app called Network Scanner that seems to do the exact same thing. Always, 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 if you're downloading software from the internet, always have up-to-date virus software installed working before you download anything. I'm going to skip the particulars of how to connect the mini-doge miner to the mine pool because I want to spend most of this video on my break-even analysis and the other topics, and because there's already excellent guides available on how to do this. You can go to Gold Shell's tutorial. It's extremely good. Or you can go on YouTube. Jimmy is Promo has a video with a play-by-play, and there's not much more I can add. He's done such a great job, and I'll put those links down there as well. Okay, folks, here is my break-even analysis of the mini-doge miner, and this all begins with an understanding of the one expense that you have as a miner, or the primary expense, I should say, is energy. You plug that thing into the wall, it runs 230 watts, and the first component of my analysis is figuring out how much the energy actually costs. So, first thing you need to do is get a hold of your energy bill. I live in the New York area. I have a monthly bill from Con Ed. It's broken into two pieces. There's a supply charge and a delivery charge, and each one tells you precisely how many kilowatt hours you consume and how much you pay per kilowatt hour. So in my area, it's an amazing 8.18 cents per kilowatt hour for supply charges, and the delivery charges come out to a whopping 16.61 cents. And by the way I performed that calculation was to take all of the taxes and even the fixed charges, roll it all together, take that number, and divide it by the number of kilowatt hours that were consumed over the course of the month. So I took the total consumption in the denominator and the total dollars in the numerator to come up with my charge per kilowatt hour. And when you add the two together, where I live for the month of June, that came out to 0.2479, or just shy of 25 cents per kilowatt hour. Now, if you live in a different part of the country, that might be 8 cents instead of 25 cents, or 14 cents instead of my 25 cents. The way this whole thing works is I put it in yellow because if you find out from looking at your electric bill that you use a different charge per kilowatt hour, you can change that cell. You can change that yellow cell. So again, this is based on Con Ed pricing in the New York area, June 2021. Now, the power level of the miner is 233 watts. You divide that by 1,000, and that tells you the energy usage in kilowatt hours. So the miner consumes 0.233 kilowatt hours. The monthly consumption is 167.76, and the way that's calculated is by multiplying kilowatt hours times 24, because there's 24 hours in a day, times 30, because there's 30 days in a month. So when you take 0.233 and you multiply it by 24 and multiply that by 30, you get a monthly consumption for the miner of 168 approximately kilowatt hours. And if you divide that by the 24 cents per kilowatt hour, you get a total cost of energy per month of $41.59. Now, that $41.59 is going to go into my summary spreadsheet. Let's look at that more carefully. Okay, so the energy tab feeds the summary tab. And in the summary tab, I have a whole lot of data here that was collected from the mine pool. And it tells me exactly how much Litecoin and Dogecoin was awarded on each of those 5 days, July 20 through July 24. And when you sum them together, what you find out is the miner generated $3.19 worth of Litecoin and $9.23 worth of Dogecoin, based upon the value of Doge and Litecoin on July 24, 2021, which I have at the top. Now, as we know, crypto prices vary and constantly change. So what I've built into this model in these yellow cells is the ability for you to play what-if games. You can change the price of Doge and the price of Litecoin based upon where you think they're going to go into the future to determine the break-even period, how many months it takes to mine enough coins to pay for the miner itself. So based upon July 24, 21 prices, the break-even period it's long. It's between 21 and 22 months, 21.24 months. You can see that in cell D23. But watch cell D23 if I assume that the price of Litecoin and Dogecoin are going to increase by 10% each. So I'm going to change 0% to 10%. 10 and 10. And did you see what happened to the graph? The red line and the green line intersect further to the left than they did before. Let me undo that and you can see what I'm talking about. So assuming today's prices, July 24, the payback period was 21 months. Remember that? But when I change the price of Litecoin and say it went up by 10% and the price of Doge went up by 10%, what happened to the break-even point? It moved to the left. So instead of 21 months, it became 17.3 months, probably 17 months and 1 week or something like that. But what if the price of Litecoin and Doge were to go up 25%? What would that do? 25, 25, and now the break-even point is 13.5 months. So maybe what you should ask yourself is, how much would the price of Litecoin and Dogecoin have to go up in order to get a break-even of less than a year? Maybe that's your objective. Well, you can just, again, you can play the what-if games. You can say Litecoin went up 25% and Dogecoin went up 45%. Is that enough to do it? Not quite. That would put it at 11.16 months. What if they both went up 45%? If they both went up 45%, the break-even would be 10.5 months. If both of these coins went up 100%, in other words, if they both doubled in value, then you would get a break-even of 6.5 months. So if you think that Litecoin and Dogecoin are going to double, then your break-even period on the cost of the miner itself, after considering the cost of energy and after considering the cost of the mine pool fees, which are also baked in here, it would go down substantially. If you think the price is going to double, you've got a break-even between 6 and 7 months. However, if it stays right where it is, if the price remains sideways, you are in for a break-even period of 21.24 months, and longer if the price declines, because that can happen. That's the basic break-even analysis, and it's self-configuring, and the tool is available for you to download. Again, you have control over the price of Litecoin, the price of Dogecoin independently, though they are closely correlated, but you can set them separately in this little tool. And then on the energy tab, you can adjust to reflect your cost per kilowatt hour for electricity. I'm not really strong at technical analysis, but with a little effort using TradingView, I was able to create a graph showing the fluctuation in price of Bitcoin in 2021 for the past several months, along with Litecoin and Dogecoin, so we can see there is a strong correlation. When Bitcoin goes up, it seems to take Litecoin and Doge along for the ride. But the same thing happens when Bitcoin declines in price, which happens a lot too. This matters because if you think Bitcoin is a long-term winner, and a lot of people do, then there's a case for mining Litecoin and Doge. I cannot say whether the payback period of 12 months or 18 months or 24 months is attainable. That depends on the market conditions, and nobody directly controls that. I also cannot say whether those payback periods are attractive to you. Remember, no financial advice here. What I can say is that if you are bullish on crypto, then this mini miner is something to seriously consider, because for a modest investment, you might be looking at recovering your investment sometime in year 2 or sooner. Show me another business that you can start with nothing more than a wall socket and get that kind of return. My own individual objective is to hold Bitcoin, and my approach would be to convert the mining rewards from this miner into Bitcoin and then hold that. But that's just me. And that brings me to a whole big thing that will come into your life if you mine crypto, even as a small-time miner. There are tax consequences to consider that I have not built into my spreadsheet model. Anybody thinking about eventually selling or exchanging crypto will face what the accountants like to call taxable events. Sounds like a fun thing. It might not be fun. I will explain this in my best non-accountant way that I possibly can. As an individual investor, when you mine crypto, the cost basis of the coins you receive is equal to their value on the day you received them. For personal income tax purposes, the crypto you mine is treated as income and subject to income tax at your personal rate. So taxable event number one is income tax in the year in which you mine the crypto at whatever it was worth when you received it. Taxable event number two will occur when and if you ever sell or exchange the crypto. In this case, you'll pay capital gains tax on the difference between what it was worth when you mined it and what it was worth when you sold it or exchanged it. If you held it for less than a year, you pay short-term capital gains tax, and if you hold it for more than a year, you pay long-term capital gains tax, which tends to be lower, but it all depends on your income tax bracket. If you sell or exchange crypto for less than your cost basis, in other words, if it went down in value, you will have to report a capital loss, which can be used to reduce your taxable income subject to the IRS rules for that. Captain Obvious here, you are going to need to maintain careful records of all your crypto transactions. You're going to need that at tax time. Notice I used the word sold or exchanged in that description. That is because the IRS looks at crypto for crypto swaps, like swapping Litecoin for Bitcoin or vice versa. They see that as a taxable event. It doesn't matter if you sell the crypto for fiat currency, like the US dollar, or some other crypto. Either way, it's a taxable event. Lovely. The big tax law that passed in December 2017 made it clear that the swaps of one crypto for another are not tax-free starting in 2018. And then I found this article in Forbes, quote, on June 18, 2021, the IRS released Chief Counsel Advice 2021-24008 to address whether an exchange of Bitcoin for Ether, Bitcoin for Litecoin, or Ether for Litecoin qualify as like-kind exchanges under Section 1031 of the tax code. And you guessed it, according to the IRS, all three of these swaps involving no cash were taxable even before 2018. I've got a link to the Forbes article. In case you have insomnia, I also have a link to the IRS memorandum from June 2021, which is very recent, where they spell out the whole thing. My closing thought is that this miner will make you neither rich nor poor. It is priced like anything else to make you think very carefully about the risk of price fluctuations. If you do your own homework and ultimately you decide that this is an acceptable level of risk versus reward for your particular financial profile, then I have one silver lining for you. The miners are on eBay, and currently they're selling for more than their original manufacturer's asking price. Keep your eye on the Gold Shell Twitter account. I hear that's where you can find out when new batches become available. Either way, if you like this video, I could really use the affirmation. So like and subscribe. And remember, I live stream on Reddit on Mondays and Thursdays at 8 p.m. If you made it to the end, I'm so glad we had this time together, and I will see you on Reddit.